So you're Director of Emergency Management of Anderson County,
Yes,
but people have known you around, I mean, for years you've been involved in
Yes, sir.
the Sheriff's Department. Tell people your journey. How did you get involved in this whole field to begin with?
So I started out like I think every kid my age at 14 as a volunteer fireman. I jumped into the volunteer service. I actually started with Anderson City Fire in their Explorer program. And then I got hooked up with Chief Randy Bratcher, who just recently retired. He got me in at Williford Fire Department, and I've actually been in there ever since. So we're going on, goodness, 16, 17 years now. 17 years of, I just had a birthday, so. We're going on 17 years of fire service, and I still am volunteering with Williford Fire Department. I'm still out there with Chief Bratcher, and through my career with that, I started at the city as an explorer. I worked my way up. When I turned 18, I went to the fire academy, went through the fire academy, and stepped right out of the fire academy into a job at Anderson City Fire Department. I worked there for 6 years. While I was working there, the last 2 years I was working there, I actually got hooked up with Matthew Littleton, who was the Deputy Director of Emergency Management at the time. And he offered me a part-time job doing some install work, some radio work for the Sheriff's Office. That's kind of how I got my foot in the door with the Sheriff's Office. I always really wanted to steer towards emergency management. I looked at Matthew Littleton, I looked at his job, and I was like, I want to do that one day. That's what I want to do.
And Matthew and them, you were, I remember during that time, there was always, we're going to call Josh, or Shaggy, they kept calling him Shaggy. Tell them why they call you Shaggy.
So, again, when I was 14 years old, I walked into the fire department one day. I had a green shirt on, khaki pants, and at the time I had real shaggy hair, like about down to my eyes. And I had a little goatee, and I looked just like Shaggy off Scooby-Doo. I mean, skinny and could eat a house full of food. And Kathy Long and Adam Zanoni were in the room with me, and Kathy looks over and says, "You look just like Shaggy off Scooby-Doo." And Adam says, "That's going to be your nickname for life now." And I thought, it's just a joke first time. No, it has been my nickname for life. To this day, I have people that call me Shaggy. They've called me Shaggy over the radio. I will forever be Shaggy to probably about 90% of the first responders in Anderson County.
Well, Matthew used to always, I mean, if there was something that was going to take a great deal of energy, or might even be a little on the dangerous side, they said, "Oh, let's call Shaggy. He'll do it. He'll do it." That seemed to be your go-to thing. They come get you for the difficult, challenging tasks. Yes,
sir, and it still is today. There's younger guys that are jumping up into that role that I used to be in, but if it was something dangerous, I like doing it. I'm a rescue diver. I climb towers. I do high angle rescue, low angle rescue. I dabble in confined space. That's never fun. Mostly we're getting dogs out of wells for confined space. I fly on the helicopter. I'm a TFO and also a student pilot for the helicopter. I'm a drone Part 107 pilot. I'm a hazmat technician. Pretty much if it can kill you and we can help somebody, I pretty much jump in and do that. I mean, pretty much all firefighters are that way. Who is crazy enough to go into a burning building that could collapse at any second on you? You got to have that not necessarily adrenaline, but that drive, and that there's fear involved. Don't get me wrong, but you have to be able to kind of hone that in and go into where you need to go and just take care of what you need to take care of. And I've always wanted to be that guy that just, I'm going to go in. We'll figure it out when we get there. Let's go in. Let's get the job done. And yeah, Matthew loved calling me a lot back in the day, and it rolled over when Director Baker took over. It rolled over to him. He would call me all the time. If he needed something done, he knew he could call me, and we would figure it out. And then, so back in the career section, I moved into the Technology Services Department, which was what Matthew had. There was a big changeover when Sheriff McBride came in, and with that changeover, a full-time position came open for the radio department. And so I moved into that full-time position, not knowing where it would lead me, but they needed the help. I was certified in everything I needed to be certified in to take care of the 911 center technology-wise. And so I was offered the job. I took it. Probably best decision I've made. I left Anderson City Fire Department, which was very difficult to do because I really thought that I was going to go through the ranks at Anderson City Fire Department and just work my way up and just stay there and retire from there. But God had different plans for me. He opened up some doors, and then a few years later, the deputy director position came open for emergency management. I applied for it, didn't really think I had a chance, and there was some very amazing candidates that I applied to, and apparently I interviewed really well, and the board decided to hire me, and so I came in as deputy director, and I was deputy director for almost 3 years, and back in November I was offered the job of director because Director Baker is taking a larger position over at the jail at the detention center, and he actually took over the detention center in the forensics lab, so he's got a big job ahead of him. But when they offered me the job, this is something I've always wanted to do. I took a day, I went and talked to my wife. My wife's like, it's what you've always wanted to do, just do it. And so I'm honored to have been offered the job, and I hope I do well for Anderson County. This is what I've always wanted to do. This is what I've been doing for the past few years, and I think we can, myself and my staff here, we can lead this county in the direction we need to go.
You've witnessed, you really kind of, when you started at 14, came in on the beginning of this massive technological change.
Yes.
You've probably seen more technology changes in the sheriff's office than any decades before. What are some of the things, and it sounds like some things you're interested in, like drones and other things. What about the technology interested you?
So, everything's changing. Everything's going towards technological advances. From, the fire trucks we were driving originally. Now there's computers in the fire trucks. It'll tell on you if you didn't wear your seatbelt. We would set up a ladder truck. We would be on the top of the ladder truck and actually, focus in where the nozzle needs to be. Now we can put a drone up and be on the ground and move the stream for the ladder truck to where it needs to go. If we had a missing person and we were searching for a missing person, it was boots on the ground, helicopter in the air, and searching. It takes a little while for the helicopter to get up. Now, me and 3 other deputies keep a drone in the back of our vehicles. We can pull up to a scene, throw the drone up. We have a drone up in there. We've got eyes in the sky in 2 minutes. So technology has just extremely helped the efforts of search, the efforts of even drowning. So we have now 3 ROVs in the county, which is remote operated vehicles. They're underwater drones. They can go up to 330 feet deep, and they've got claws on them. The newest one, the technical rescue team purchased, it's got a sonar on the bottom that actually keeps itself off the bottom of the lake so that we don't have to worry about getting tangled up too much. It's got a lot of extra features. But something that we would normally send a diver down to search a cove, now we can send an ROV down and program it to search the cove for us. It's technology. It's just going to keep getting better. It's going to keep advancing, and emergency management, along with fire, EMS, and law enforcement, we've got to embrace it, and we've got to use it to our advantage because everybody else is using it to their advantage as well. So emergency management is pretty much a jack of all trades. We have to mold. We have to work, figure out how to work in every emergency. We sit in the middle of fire, law, EMS, public works, county administration, municipality administration, schools. We're kind of the middle piece that hooks everything together. We can be anything from resource requests. So the fire department may need something may need drones, may need something that they don't have. We get that to them, and it can be as small as we need a porta potty on scene because we have nowhere to use the restroom. On a day-to-day basis, that's what we do. We try to fit ourselves in, help every department, every municipality in Anderson County and our surrounding counties. We're called on a regular basis to assist our surrounding counties with assets.
Hospital systems and
hospitals, stuff. Yes, sir. COVID's a prime example.
Did you ever think there'd be a worldwide pandemic when you took this job?
So no.
You kind of came in right at the beginning, didn't you?
I did. I came in and I got thrown COVID in my lap. It was and still is a challenge. There's a lot of moving pieces. We've learned a lot since day one, but there's still a lot of moving pieces, and it is still a big factor. Plays a factor in every agency. We went from just doing statistical data for all the municipalities and the counties and the fire departments, EMS, law enforcement, to opening a vaccine clinic for first responders, to opening up a testing site for first responders. And now we're still running a testing site for first responders. Actually, my staff right now is out in the back lot testing individuals for COVID, and it's all fire law, EMS, people that we need to know their results quick so we can get them back in the field and back helping the citizens of Anderson.
And what are y'all, just kind of remind people what y'all are encouraging people to do to help do their part to stem the tide of this surge we got particularly?
So if you feel sick, just stay home. Stay away from others. Try to wear a mask if you're going to be closer than 6 feet, or if you're in a large crowd. Just try to play it smart. If you think, I just got a cold, it may be beneficial to test to make sure.
Since when you took over and the virus has been a major part of what you've had to take care of, how much of your time does keeping up with all this take?
So it takes up so much time that we have actually brought in another deputy. The sheriff's office gave us a deputy to help us with this COVID testing. We also keep up with the data. SCDX sends us in data. We send that out to our municipalities, and administration for the counties. And it pretty much takes up, I'd say, probably 80% of our time. 20% of our time I get to do emergency management related stuff. But in all honesty, I go home every day with a pile of emergency management stuff that I do at home. I mean, it's a 24/7 job. Emergencies don't really they don't really happen when you want them to or when you need them to.
Right. So people, again, a good example. I remember a couple of years ago there was a truck on the interstate that had a hazardous material that y'all had to immediately go out and.
Yes, stayed out there for 3 days with that truck. And it's you can't predict when an emergency is going to happen, so we have to be ready 24/7. COVID has been an emergency that is a 24/7 event for us. We take phone calls 24/7, trying to help our first responders kind of gauge which direction they need to go. Do they need to be tested? Do they need to stay out of work? Do they need to quarantine for their families? We get these questions all the time. We've helped our county HR write a policy on it, and the policy is basically stems off of what CDC guidance is. We try to follow the CDC guidance with everything. So we get the phone calls every day. We get the requests for tests every day, and we just try to do everything we can to help with COVID. And surprisingly, while COVID's taking a lot of time right now, it's only one job out of 1,000.
Y'all were had a pretty full slate of things to do before COVID.
Yes, sir.
And a good example is, as we tape this, there's a weather event. This time of year, you're looking at ice and snow. How do y'all help people prepare looking ahead to things like weather events? In the spring, it's tornadoes and. So
we're a conduit for information. We are constantly in contact with the National Weather Service Greenville-Spartanburg office. We're on a chat with them. I also call them and talk to them, and they send us updates regularly when significant events are coming in, like a winter weather storm, which is what we're looking at potentially for this weekend. When that happens, we have to disseminate that information, which we have we typically do that over email. We send it to our municipal leaders, our county leaders, and fire and EMS leaders, and law enforcement as well. But we disseminate that information. Then we have to start planning. You know, there's certain things that we cannot shut down. The 911 center cannot shut down. We have to continue to get staff there. So we currently, right now, this morning, we had a meeting planning on what officers have four-wheel drive vehicles that can go pick up dispatchers and transport them back and forth to work. For the dispatchers that don't have four-wheel drive or have cars that would not work well in the snow. So we have to stay prepared for that kind of stuff. Then we have to look at what happens if we have a mass power outage during this. Currently, the predictions are 25 to 30 mile per hour winds this weekend, with the potential of 3 to 5 inches of snow, and then sleet and ice. Ice is one of my worst enemies when we come to this. You get ice on power lines, ice on tree limbs, and then you tie in 25 to 30 mile per hour winds. That's easily branches falling on limbs, power lines coming down, and now we have this issue of power outage during a cold snap. So you can't leave people, in their homes by themselves with no way to heat. While I encourage everyone to plan ahead and have a plan if your power goes out during the freezing cold, have somewhere to go, have another family household member to go to. Not everybody has that. So we work with the Salvation Army, we work with American Red Cross, we work with a lot of VOAS, which is volunteer organization assistance during disasters. We've got a group that we work with, multiple groups that we work with to set up shelters. We work with local churches, try to get them to set up shelters when we can. The biggest thing is getting them somewhere where they can have warmth, have a place to eat something, drink something. And we've got a lot of organizations in Anderson County that are great at that. If it becomes larger than what the volunteer organizations can handle, at that point we move forward and go with like the Civic Center. We would set up Civic Center as a site. We've got remote sites in Powdersville and other areas of Anderson County that we can set up. But that's our last resort. We try to use local first. Start local, end local, because no one is going to care about you more than your local community.
So weather events, particularly, y'all have to get the information out beforehand and then deal with the aftermath, whatever. Yes.
So depending on what it is, if it's winter weather, tornadoes coming through, hurricanes, if it's something that can happen, we pretty much get it in Anderson County. Other than volcanoes, gonna knock on wood there, make sure one doesn't just pop up.
We are in an earthquake zone, though. People forget.
We are, yes, and I think people are reminded a lot this year because there's been a lot of earthquakes that's happened in the lower part of the state, lower and mid part of the state. But we have, all these different types of events, and yes, we respond during the event and we help during the event, but after it, it is a long recovery process. So our job is preparedness, response, and recovery. Recovery is where we will work with FEMA, we'll work with the South Carolina State EMD, and we work to get money back into Anderson County to rebuild.
One of the other things that people might forget about that you have to have a plan in place for is we're not that far from a major nuclear facility.
We're not, yeah.
And y'all are fairly regularly do planning preparedness for the Duke nuclear facility if there was an accident up there or something. So
we are a reception center site. Actually, we have 4 reception center sites in Anderson County for Oconee or Oconee Nuclear Facility, and it's called the FNF program, Fixed Nuclear Facility. and we have to do radiological emergency preparedness, working with the Anderson County Hazmat team and the other counties that actually work with Oconee Nuclear. We we have to, every 2 years, we do an exercise at one of those centers. So we've got 4 centers, so we spread it out to where each center gets tested every 8 years. What happens is, in an event that something happens in Oconee, we get residents from there. They actually come here. We will check them with radiological monitoring. They go through a process for their vehicles to be checked and for themselves to be checked, and even pets if there's pets that potentially have radiological material on them. And so we will check them, we will clean them, we'll actually decontaminate them as they go through, and they can either go into our reception center and hang out there until they find a place to go, or if they're clean, they can actually, sign the paperwork, get out of there, and go about their business. But that is a big part that a lot of people have no idea that even happens in Anderson County, is the Fixed Nuclear Facility Program, and Anderson County Emergency Management heads that up. That is a big collaborative effort. In the event that this actually does set up, we'll use local fire departments, we use the hazmat team, and law enforcement, pretty much all hands on deck to make that happen. But we do have multiple plans in place, and we have to exercise those plans on a regular basis. We have quarterly meetings with Duke Energy and the South Carolina State EMD just for the Fixed Nuclear Facility Program, just to make sure we're still on the same page, we're still doing the correct things, and that all our T's are crossed, I's are dotted, and we're ready in the event that it actually happens.
I know you've got a giant planning notebook. Any other emergency kind of events that people might not think about, you guys have to be ready to respond to, that I haven't mentioned already?
I think we've mentioned most of them. So we have something called a hazard mitigation plan. It is on our website. We are in the process of actually revamping that, because it's due 2023 is when we have to, the end of 2023, we have to send that back into FEMA. It's a FEMA approved plan. The only way we can actually get that, get any reimbursement from FEMA, is to have that plan in place. It's a very long document. It's a very large document. But you can go to our website. You can see our emergency operations plan. You can see our hazard mitigation plan. You can also find out more stuff about us, our department itself. You can find out what we do, all the agencies we touch. You can find out about the LEPC, which is the Local Emergency Planning Committee. There's a lot. One of the biggest things you can find in our website is how to be prepared yourself. If you are prepared yourself, you help us. It allows us to, help others that may not be able to be as prepared. So just think about stuff. Think about, what happens if a tornado comes through our town and we lose power for 5 or 6 days. What do you need in your house to take care of that? Bottled water, some extra food, some food that's not going to expire, food that you don't have to keep refrigerated, stuff that you can actually make yourself something that you can survive off of. I highly recommend everybody doing a survival pack. You can go to ready.gov, or you can go to our website, emd.andersonsheriff.org, and it will lead you to different places to where you can know how to be prepared. In the past, we've done preparedness classes. COVID's kind of dampened that right now. We are looking forward to hopefully COVID weaning off a little bit and us starting preparedness classes again, because I love getting the community involved. We love to, really hit that preparedness part. That way the response and the recovery is a lot easier in the end for everybody, for the whole community.
And you have an app?
We don't have an app.
An app.
The sheriff's office has an app.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. Y'all put y'all stuff on the sheriff's department.
Yep.
So, okay, let me rephrase that. So, some of this information can be found on the sheriff's department's app as well?
It's going to be on the emd.andersonsheriff.org website. But the nice thing about that website is it's cell phone friendly. It is just like using an app. I mean, it's very easy to use on your cell phone. You can find all the information on there. You don't have to get on your computer. Just jump on your cell phone and look up emd.andersonsheriff.org.
And y'all started using social media a lot too.
Oh,
get
yes.
the word out.
So we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Nextdoor. And if we have an event, if we have like this weather coming up, here in the next couple of days, we're going to start sending out information about weather. We'll send out what the National Weather Service is sending us. On top of that, we'll send out tips. Tips on. I think the last one we sent out was about space heaters in your house. What's the safest way to use a space heater in the house? Do you have the correct space heater in your house if you're using a space heater? We try to do tips to keep you prepared, to keep you safe, and you can also look on those if we have a missing person, if we have something going on. We'll actually push that out over our social media, and we push it out over something called Code Red. Code Red, or some people call it Reverse 911, is a big thing. The way it works is I can draw a map and send out a Reverse 911 or a Code Red alert, and it'll go to all the house phones. And it'll ring a house phone. It'll give you the message we need to give you if we're looking for a missing person, or if it's a weather warning, or if it's just something that you need to know emergency. You can get that. Saying that, since it goes to house phones, we have it set up to where you can get it to your cell phone. You can sign up with your address, and if you go to emd.andersonsheriff.org, there's a link at the top of the page that says Code Red. Those Code Red alerts, I highly recommend everybody in Anderson County to sign up for them. That's our way of communicating to you real time, extremely fast. As soon as I hit the send button on that, it's going to your phone. So we highly recommend everybody doing that. You can sign up for your alert level. So if you just want, alerts coming from us, you don't have to sign up for any weather alert. But you can also sign up for weather warnings. It does not do weather watches, but it does do weather warnings. So if there's a tornado warning in your area, a winter storm warning, a severe thunderstorm warning, you can sign up for those, and you can sign up for different levels. And just really highly recommend everybody doing that.
Looking back over your career here, did you ever think about when you were climbing towers that one day you'd be spending your days filling out paperwork rather than
I knew one day it would come that I would be filling out paperwork, but I didn't think it would come so soon. Saying that, I am still in the response mode. I do my job here. I do everything I can, but I still get out in the field. If there's a fire close to me, if there's an EMS call, I still will jump in my truck, run that EMS call, help the person, because ultimately I'm a first responder at heart. I want to help the public, and physically getting my hands on, actually helping somebody, making somebody's worst day a little bit better. It really, that's what really touches my heart. But with emergency management, the first responder field, I've obviously been in both, and I've filled both roles, and I love both roles. But what I found with emergency management is with emergency management, we help entire communities. We help an entire community get through maybe some of their worst time. And the first responders do the same thing. They're hand in hand with us, helping the entire community. But with emergency management, we do that every day, helping whole communities. As a first responder, we help individuals at an individual incident, and that's one part of the big piece. But the emergency management section actually gets to overcompass and look at everything at the same time. So we're looking at what law enforcement's doing on this scene, what's fire's doing on this scene, what's EMS. We're looking at everything and trying to organize that to where we've got enough assets in different places during a major emergency to make sure we're helping everybody at the same time. That can be difficult. There's always budgetary limits. There's always personnel limits. There is always just natural disaster limits. I've went to Oconee during the tornadoes. There was limits of we physically couldn't get into the people. they called and said, hey man, can you get up here with a drone? And that was our way of actually getting in, communicating, finding out, you know, what's still there. Who do we need to get to first? When they get these trees out of the road, where do they need to turn? Where do they need to go to help the most people, to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people? And you know, that goes back to that technology part, having those abilities, and having those relationships with the different counties, with the agencies. That's what makes a difference. The nice thing about emergency management is we have a relationship with everybody. If it's a local VOAD, if it's a, you know, all the fire chiefs, all the municipal chiefs, the mayors, managers, the county administration, the sheriff, if they operate in Anderson County, at some point we deal with them on a regular basis. We will talk to them on a regular basis. We keep those relationships in place. That way, if something happens in Pendleton right now, it's as easy as calling the Pendleton police chief and saying, hey man, we've got this going on. What can I do to help you? And having that relationship beforehand, that's what's vital, because I can make that phone call and he immediately will say, hey, I need this, this, and this, and he knows he's got it. But those relationships what really makes a difference in this community and helping everybody, ultimately helping the citizens of Anderson.